Welcome to No Flipping Excuses with Jason Lucchese. Jason Lucchese was the guy voted least likely to succeed by his high school peers. Today, Jason's a real estate flipping ninja Jedi Knight assassin who's taken his drive, street smarts, and never give up attitude and converted them into a real estate flipping business and freedom-based lifestyle. Here to share the truth about flipping houses, finding sellers, delivering buyers, real estate investing without the reality show hype, and all-around general business badassery. Your host, Krav Maga enthusiast, husband and father of 3, Jason Lucchese.
Hey, what's up? It's Jason Lucchese, and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses show. I am super excited. I've got my good friend joining me here today. If you don't know him, he's been a really good friend of mine. We had a good story that just came up off air that should probably stay off air.
Not telling that story.
We are not telling that story. If you don't know Daniil Kleyman, he is the creator of the amazing software Rehab Valuator and has been changing a lot of real estate investors' lives with just making things so much easier. And I am glad to call him a friend. I've been able to call him a friend now since 2012, and it's been really great ever since. He's Russian, so he will be very blunt and right to the point, and he won't sugarcoat anything for you.
I speak with very thick accent to you.
So this is Daniil Kleyman, good friend of mine. We're going to be talking about some of the awesome things that he's doing with new construction. We haven't had anybody come on the show yet to talk about new construction. We've talked about land a little bit, but I want to talk to Daniil today about, doing this new construction. Because when I met Daniil in 2012, he kept having to go in and out of the room of the meeting that we were having because he needed to constantly talk to his contractors. So I'm assuming business has changed for you a little bit since then. But let's talk about how you got started in the business, first of all. I think we almost had a similar background. You're obviously a little bit more with the numbers side, but I was on the mortgage side and you were in finance, I believe, right?
Yeah. So my background is in finance. I worked in New York after graduating college, worked on Wall Street, a couple of different banks, and I bought a couple of rental properties while I was living in New York. I was investing passively in Virginia, which is my hometown. And then, long story short, the economy crashed 2008. Was a good time to leave. It was a good time to kind of part ways. I didn't really like working for other people. I wanted to go into business for myself. So towards the end of 2008, it was a recession. I kind of realized it was a good time to really jump into real estate. I knew there was going to be a lot of buying opportunities and that a lot of other people weren't going to take advantage of. So that's right around when I went to real estate full time. And the end of 2008, early 2009, and we moved back to Virginia and just started buying kind of a house at a time.
Yep.
So big change, right? It was really nice to leave the corporate life and the 9 to 5 and sort of, jump into, with both feet into something that I didn't really know how to do at the time, but, turned out to, in hindsight, it was the right move. So
what was the first route that you went down? Was it wholesaling, rehabbing? Was it buy and holds? What was that first avenue that you went down?
So my very first exposure was buy and hold because, again, I was doing it passively with a partner. So I owned a couple of rentals even before I left my corporate job.
Yep.
So my long-term goal was always to accumulate a rental portfolio. But, when I really started full-time, I did wholesaling because I needed to build up some cash. And so even while I was looking for rentals to buy for my portfolio, I was doing some wholesaling on the side. I never built a big business out of it because I was always interested in the residual income,
right? Even
from day one, right? And instead of the transactional income. So I didn't really have much of an interest in building up a big wholesaling business and a big fix and flip business, even though I've done all of those things.
Gotcha.
What interested me from day one was always the recurring checks, right? I just wanted to build up my rental income.
Right. And I know with your software, it's obviously each version that you've gone through now, it's gone up quite a bit with different versions and tools and analytics that you can use. And one of the big components that you have now is property management software, and then
Not property management. We released project management
Project management,
functionality in
yeah.
our software. Yeah, which property management, we use third-party tools for my portfolio, and I don't think I'll ever build a property management software because it's incredibly involved. What we released is project management, which essentially allows people to create budgets for their projects and then track ongoing costs. So there's a mini accounting system for each project. Then you can compare your costs to your budget, see where you're going over budget, see where you're under budget, look at where you really need to hone in on your negotiation, which suppliers, which contractors, and then create budgeting for future projects that's predictable.
No, that's awesome.
And I think that's what a lot of people, even people who are doing 10, 12, 15 rehabs a year, a lot of them, if you ask them, they don't really truly know what their costs are or where their opportunities are to cut costs, save money. So that's one of the things we're tackling now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's flash forward to today. I know you've been doing a ton of new construction there in Virginia, but what made you want to start doing like new construction? I've seen some of your projects, by the way. They're great. They're awesome properties. But what made you want to kind of get into that realm? I know it's not a lot of people as investors get into that side. So I'm just curious because it obviously does create opportunity where others may not see the opportunity. I see it, but what made you want to go off into that route?
So it's funny. Most of my rehabbing career, and I've rehabbed, probably 50, 60 rentals for myself, and I've done a bunch of flips. But most of my rehabbing career was gut rehabs. Like I have friends that do cosmetic renovations and their business revolves around cosmetic renovations. I haven't done a cosmetic renovation since like 2010. So most of my projects have been gut rehabs. A lot of the housing stock that I've been buying here, a lot of our properties where I invest, most of them are 100 plus years old. So if you're buying something, you can do a cosmetic renovation, but it's going to come back to bite you 6 months from now. Because if you're not replacing all the major systems, you're going to be paying for that in a few months anyway. So most of my rehabs have been gut rehabs. I mean, we would go in, we would gut a property down to the studs, right? Replace everything from scratch: plumbing, electrical, HVAC, insulation, drywall, and everything from there. And oftentimes we would be doing the exterior work too: roofing, siding, foundation repairs. So it's actually harder than new construction when you look at it that way.
Right.
It takes longer. It's less predictable because until you really open up the walls, I mean, you know how to budget out a gut rehab for the most part because you're completely replacing things, but you don't necessarily know how much sistering or framing you're going to have to do, or replacement of framing, until you open the walls up.
Right.
You may not see what your subfloor looks like until you pull old flooring down. So it's actually less predictable, even if you're doing gut renovations.
Right.
If you're doing cosmetic renovations or you're troubleshooting properties, it's even less predictable. So from a lot of points of view, new construction is actually easier. I can take a set of drawings and I can hand it over to our foundation guys. They'll do the foundation. I can hand it over to a framer and they follow the drawings, and I know exactly what my costs are going to be from start to finish. It's actually easier to budget out a new construction project. And from an execution standpoint, it's also easy compared to doing major rehabs.
Right.
So a lot of people aren't doing it, but it's actually not that hard. Your biggest learning curve with new construction is really the site work, right? What you need to do to your land to get it ready for footers and foundation, and building foundation, right? That's really, if you're going from rehabbing to new construction, that's where the learning curve is. Once your foundation is out of the ground, I mean, framing is, if you have a good framing crew, it's easy.
And right now, are you doing mainly single families, or I'm seeing some of these multi-family properties too that you're doing, right? Is it a mixture right now?
If I'm building single families, I'm selling them. So every year, I mean, I don't have a huge business. I probably build 5 or 6 single families to sell retail.
Okay. Everything
else I'm building is rentals. So I'm building everything from 2 units. I'm getting ready to break ground on the 6. I've got permitting that I'm getting ready to submit for on 10, 12, as well as a 20 plus unit, and I have bigger projects in the pipeline as well.
Gotcha.
So my bread and butter for the last couple of years has been building duplexes. I probably built 20 of them, ground up. Apartment down, apartment above it. You build it by residential building code, so it's cheap, because once you start building by commercial code, construction becomes more expensive. You're doing things that you're not doing in residential. For us, it's sprinkler systems, backflow preventers. There's additional fire rating that's involved. So you can build a duplex by residential code, and it's the same code as a single family house, if that makes sense.
No, that's awesome.
That's been my bread and butter, and they're just super reliable rental properties. We rent them. Right now I'm building 3 of them as we speak, and we are leasing these units before drywall goes up.
No, that's awesome.
Potential tenants are walking through when there's just framing and electrical in the walls, and they're leasing them from us because people want to live in new construction. And if you have a good layout and an attractive product, like, we can show them pictures of previous product and say, hey, this is what it's going to look like. But the rental demand is so strong right now that we can't lease them fast enough.
Oh, wow. That's great. And you've been doing the new construction side now for a few years, right?
Yeah, probably since 2014 or 2015.
Okay.
And it really happened because there was an opportunity, right? So back in 2011, 2012, nobody was buying infill lots. Right now, there's a lot of competition for them. But back then, everybody was buying single families, but the same people that were buying single families were ignoring infill lots. I was one of them in probably 2010, 2011, 2012. I passed on so many lots that I could have picked up just insanely cheap because the numbers didn't make sense. Back then, you could buy houses below replacement cost.
Wow.
So if you can buy a house for essentially the value of a land, even if it needs renovation, you're probably ignoring land, right? Yeah. It doesn't really make sense to build lots because you're going to make more money. But as houses started appreciating, eventually you get to the point where you can't really buy foreclosures, REOs, off-market properties for below replacement cost,
right?
Or especially for what the land is worth. And that's when lots become more attractive and more people start competing for them. And that's when new construction becomes viable. So I started buying lots when I got a little bit of patient money, right?
Gotcha.
When I had some money, I could tie up for 6, 12 months and wait until it's the right time to build, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. And let me ask you this question. So for somebody, like, say, for instance, you can go back and tell yourself one particular thing to avoid, or to maybe just, one great thing that you can go back to yourself to when you were just starting off in new construction, what would that be? Like, what would you tell yourself for if you were just getting started into this thing? Something maybe to avoid that causes a lot of time, or
well, I mean, for me, it would have been to just buy more land, right? I mean, you really want to be buying assets when other people aren't buying them, right? When everybody's not competing. So if I could go back in time, that's probably the one thing that I would tell myself, is I would just pick up more infill lots, as many as I could. Mm-hmm. In terms of mistakes, it's a learning curve, right?
Yeah.
So if you are doing new construction for the first time, what I would say to people is, you can hire a general contractor to do it for you, but learn everything that they're doing, shadow them, spend time with them. It should be, you should understand every step of the way. You should understand the process.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you're a general contractor yourself, but you've never built before, right? Pay somebody with more experience, like a consultant fee, and have them help you with permitting, have them help you with getting out of the ground, right? Again, that's where the learning curve is. How do you prepare the site? How do you scrape the site? How do you look at your soil studies, right? Because an engineer needs to come out, sample the soil, make sure that they tell you, hey, this is what your foundation needs to look like in order to support the load of the house. So there's a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah.
So I guess my advice is don't just hire somebody and come back in 6 months and wait for it to be built, right? Learn the process.
Right. No,
Because you can, right?
right.
You can, if you own the land, you can hire a general contractor, hand over a set of plans and a scope of work, and come back in 6 months after it's built. You absolutely can.
Yeah,
But my advice is not to do that, right? You need to learn the process.
absolutely. A couple questions here for you that I know listeners are probably wondering. What's an infill lot, and how do
Yeah.
you go and find infill lots?
So infill lot is literally a lot between two structures, or there might be three lots on the block with structures. So, when it comes to land development, there's suburbia, where you have a land developer will buy a large tract of land,
Mm-hmm.
will bring utilities to that land, right? Will subdivide the lots, and then they'll either build on it themselves or they'll sell the lots to builders.
Okay.
Infill lots are lots that are already zoned. They're already they're already buildable, basically.
Okay.
And they're called infill because you're infilling between two structures.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And where are you finding most of these infill lots?
I've been buying a lot from wholesalers.
Okay.
I used to buy lots at tax auctions, but last 2 years tax auctions have become incredibly competitive.
Okay.
So it doesn't make sense to buy at tax auctions anymore. I've done a lot of my own mailing campaigns to landowners. You can go to listsource.com and you can just pull a list of land
Okay.
in a particular zip code. So it's primarily been those methods. It's either been my own marketing campaign, or I've bought from wholesalers, or again, tax auctions used to be effective, but now, I mean, in my market, unless you want to get trampled to death, you don't even go to them. and if you're the winning bidder at our local auctions now, then if you're not walking away with buyer's remorse, then you don't know what you're doing.
Oh man.
It's gotten that bad.
Oh geez. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Virginia is a pretty hot market right now. And the area that you started doing stuff in, didn't you kind of build that area up with some of the projects that you did?
So a lot of my efforts were focused on kind of one area and one neighborhood, and I'm sure it's contributed in some small way, but it's been that was the fastest appreciating area in all of Richmond in the last 10 years.
That's awesome.
So part of it is luck, part of it is people like me going in and kind of, the way I prefer to build is I like to focus on one area and do a lot of projects in that one area.
Yeah.
So I'm building 3 duplexes right now. I'm actually getting ready to go visit after we're done here, and they're within a block of each other.
Oh, cool.
So, and then from a property management perspective, it makes it easy to manage because most of my portfolio is literally in one neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it's easy to manage, but then if you're doing a lot of projects in one area, you can force appreciation yourself.
Right.
Right. If you're spread out, then you're betting on those areas improving, and you're hoping that those areas are improving. But if you're buying 5-6 properties in a block, you're going to force appreciation on that block.
It's true.
You're going to drive your own property values up.
Yep.
So you can make a bigger impact if you're focused tighter. I don't know. I am Russian. I do not know how to say these things. Sorry.
So let me ask you this, man. I know we had this come up in your group Rehab Valuator on Facebook, where people are, they really want to get into some of the new construction stuff. And I know you and I have talked about this before in the past, but for somebody wanting to get into new construction, they don't have the actual liquidity themselves. What would be some of the best strategies? For me, I know there's 2, but I'm wondering from your stance, what do you think would be the best way to maybe get some funding to help out with new construction? Because this is an opportunity, especially if you find the right neighborhoods. It could definitely prove to be a really great opportunity to build something.
I think right now, if you can control the deals, you can kind of create your own terms. So one thing you can do is, if you're a wholesaler that's finding land, there's an opportunity to obviously wholesale those lots.
Yep.
And a lot of people that are wholesaling, they're doing marketing, they're ignoring land. They're still ignoring land. They're still ignoring lots. So the first thing you should be doing is stop ignoring lots, because there's strong demand for them. But if you want to get into construction, be creative. You have a really attractive lot under contract at an attractive price. Instead of wholesaling it, approach a builder and say, hey, if I bring this deal to the table, let's partner.
Yep.
Right? You can go out and you can raise private money, find people that will fund you passively, that will fund your deal. The way we're doing it is I'm able to buy lots with cash. My local bank finances oftentimes they will finance 100% of my construction at pretty low rates.
Yeah.
So as long as I can buy the land, I can bring that as equity to my local lender here, and they'll finance. So like the duplexes I'm building now, I bought the land with cash. My construction budget is around 200 grand on each one. My bank is financing 200 grand in construction.
That's awesome.
Right? Because I'm bringing the land as equity. So if you can control the land, or if you can find somebody to partner with you that will buy that land, it becomes easier to finance the construction.
No, it makes so much sense. And from finding like bank sources, we're talking more like state level and regional level banks. We don't want to
local community banks, and look, they don't lend to everyone, so they will look at your credit, right? They will look at your balance sheet. So if you're not bankable, find somebody to partner with that is bankable, or go out and raise private capital. There's so much money sitting on the sidelines right now. It's crazy, right? And all wants to get into real estate.
Yep.
So you can find private individuals that will fund and will partner with you, and especially on flips, right? The retail demand is huge right now, so you can't sell houses fast enough especially if you're building them in an affordable price range. So under 300 grand, like if we have product hit the market here under 300 grand, gone. Multiple offers. So I mean, right now, if you can find buildable lots and build retail product, right, single family houses to sell, huge opportunity there.
So what would you say? And I know you've done some really cool interviews not too long ago with a lot of the nation's leading experts on raising capital. But what would you say is like maybe like your top one or two strategies for finding folks that have capital? Because I agree with you 100%. Right now, I've never seen so much capital available for people that want to put their money into something stable like real estate. Because right now the market itself is pretty volatile. But what would you say? There's no magic shortcuts here. It's your network, right? And if your network sucks right now, go expand your network. But that's where true legit private money comes from, right? It doesn't come from hitting some button on your computer, right? Or Googling private lenders. Real private capital, it's a huge misconception out there, right? But like true private money doesn't work that way. It comes from your network. Yeah. It comes from people who you know, or people who know people that you know. So go hang out where people hang out with money. Go, again, very bad English, but you get what I'm saying, right? Go hang out where other people with money hang out. Get to know them. Your church, your synagogue, join a charity, right? Your gym, your doctor, talk to people, right? Mm-hmm. Get to know people, build relationships. I don't have to do that anymore. Like I'm turning money away. I could be raising a lot more money right now. I don't really need to, right? Yeah. Like I'm generating my own equity through my other businesses, whether it's flipping houses or our software business. And I have ready to go funding sources. So I'm not really networking anymore. But you get to a certain point where people approach you to invest in your deals. If you're starting out, expand your network. Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with just meet with as many people as possible. You're going to have failure, but you're going to learn from the failures to make the conversations even better each time that you talk with folks. But the main thing is just getting out there and talking to people. And once you start off, you're going to talk to them about terms and, different types of things that they want. The main thing that I would do, and let me know if you agree with this, Daniil, is never let them know something that you can do from them as far as like terms. Don't be the first person to say, hey, I'll give you 12%, because 12% sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
And most of the time they're going to come in at a lower number.
Suspiciously, yeah, if it sounds too good to be true, people will get spooked, right? If you're wholesaling, get to know your cash buyers.
Yeah.
A lot of those people are either getting burned out from flipping and rehabbing, and they want to become more passive.
Yep.
A lot of them have less opportunities now to deploy their capital than they did a year or two ago into enough projects. So if you have an attractive project, they'll be more likely to partner with you. So think, you may already know these people,
Yep.
right? Look at your buyers list, look at your network. And then the other thing that people do that I see all the time is, don't try to take the girl home during appetizers, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like get to know people, build a relationship,
Yeah.
right? Don't pitch them on your first meeting during your first conversation.
Yeah.
Get to know what their goals are with their money. Get to know what their current financial situation looks like. Like, be cool.
Yeah.
If you're calling up Jason, you're like, Jason, I've got this deal that I have to fund tomorrow. I got to close on it tomorrow. It's an unbelievable opportunity. Jason's going to run away from you.
Probably.
Right?
Probably. Yeah,
So,
I had to treat Daniil to a bowl of clam chowder before I was able to get into his world.
Yes, and we also went to a Brazilian steakhouse, and then got it was a whole thing. So.
Nice. Another thing is for private money. We talked about cash buyers. Your title company, who's closing transactions? Title companies are closing transactions for both hard money, private money, cash buyers. They know them all. So if you get in with a good title company that's investor friendly, they're going to be a really great source for you too. So I just want to leave that out there as well. So two last things.
Financial advisor presentations in your town, right? Self-directed IRA companies come all the time to major cities and present, right? Who shows up to self-directed IRA conference? I'm going to give you a hint. There are probably people with self-directed IRAs.
Yes.
Right? Go meet people, right? Go hang out where people with money hang out.
Yeah.
Like Jason, for example, is a member of his most esteemed country club. On the weekends, he wears a tuxedo and goes to cocktail parties and hobnobs with other local billionaires.
Yeah.
So,
what's funny though is when we were in Peru, we rented this really nice place. Like it was on 50 acres. We didn't want to be at some hotel. And one of the guys,
you rented 50. That's what I'm saying. Like you're big time.
No, what I'm trying to say here.
50 acres in Peru.
Well, it wasn't that bad, but the cool thing is the guy that owned that property was friends with another guy that owned a resort down the road. And one of the days we went there to this guy's resort, and we wanted to have lunch. And at the time, the guy came up. I didn't really know who he was. He was just wearing like a regular button down and some casual shorts. And I didn't know until I came back into the States that guy was an actual billionaire. And I didn't know it, but we had a regular conversation. And
rich people never look rich. If they look rich, they're poor.
Yeah.
That's the rule. Like if you see a guy wearing a suit walking down the street, he probably works for Jason. So.
Yeah. Oh man, no, that's great. So let me ask you this. We'll wrap up here in a second. What is a top tool that you want to share with folks that something that you found in your business that's extremely helpful?
Well, sure. I'm totally not going to be self-serving in this case, and I'm totally not going to recommend my own software that I've built. Can I?
No, you can.
Well, I mean, obviously, Rehab Valuator. It's a platform that we've been building for 10 years and improving. And if you're wholesaling, if you're rehabbing, if you're looking to raise private money, it's a tool that has helped hundreds of investors raise tens of millions of dollars. There's a feature in the software that can literally spit out a funding presentation for you that you can put in front of a potential lender that just builds up your credibility, shows the lender exactly how the deal is structured. If you're wholesaling, you can sell your deals using the software. If you're rehabbing, we released project management functionality. So obviously, yeah, kind of a fan of Rehab Valuator. I hear it's pretty great. There's a free version. I'm sure Jason will post a link below the video or below the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you can get you can sign up for the free version of the software. There's a lot of bells and whistles in the premium, so you can upgrade if you want. But even the free version is far more advanced than most similar paid programs out there.
Yeah, it's a great software. Great software, and that private money part is huge, especially if you're trying to raise private funds right now. That part of the software is huge, but the software is really good. So it is a great tool that you can use and implement into your business. So I'll provide a link for folks that want to try it out for free. Daniil, I know you're a huge reader. You love reading books, and I see your posts about it. What is a really great book that you've read within the last 12 months, like a business book that you'd recommend?
Man, you're putting me on the spot here. I'm looking around my desk. What did I read?
You read a ton. I see these pictures you post all the time.
So the very last book I read was Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Oh, yeah.
He's like an ex-Navy SEAL. It's just a really great mindset book. What else did I read recently? Oh, read Tribe of Mentors by Tim Ferriss. It's a book about this.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge, but it's pretty cool because he basically took his dream list of like 100 just super successful, most successful people in the world, and he created a very, very thought out questionnaire, same questions to ask those 100 people, right? And he basically surveyed them on their best habits that contribute to their productivity and their best mindset techniques and their business philosophies. And so it's basically a collection of the best possible advice you can get from incredibly successful people. So there's a wealth of information in that book, and you go through it and you write down maybe 3 or 4 or 5 things that resonate with you, and you apply those things to your lifestyle. And I mean, it's incredibly powerful.
No, that's great. That's a great book.
That was a really good book. I mean, it's a long, thick read, but definitely worth it because you're kind of getting the very best bits and pieces from very, very high level people.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a good book. Highly recommend it. So we're getting to that point right now in the podcast. How would people get a hold of you? I know we talked about Rehab Valuator. I'll provide a link, but is there some other way that folks can get a hold of you, Daniil?
The best way is to sign up for the software. You get on my email list. You get emails from me directly, and you can typically reply to them, and I see those emails myself. You can find me on Facebook pretty easily. Daniil Kleyman. You can email me at Daniil DANIIL@rehabvaluator.com. I'm on LinkedIn, but I never use it. I know you're like a huge LinkedIn guy, and that's one tool that like I haven't really taken advantage of or really been able to figure out. So I'm on there, but Jason sends me like 16 messages a day on LinkedIn, and I know all of them. So he keeps hitting me up for private money. I
do. I keep hitting you up. I keep getting the messages from folks on there too, saying, "Hey, I'll give you money at 3.499% and
4%.
No credit checks."
Email me at legitlender@gmail.com.
Yeah, exactly.
4% unsecured money.
I hear you. Well, is there any parting words that you have for our listeners, Daniil?
Not really. Again, you guys know how to reach me. Obviously, if they're listening to you, they're listening to your podcast, and they're taking the time to educate themselves, and hopefully, it's cliche at this point, but there's a whole group of people that listen to our stuff and don't do anything, right? So make sure you're implementing. There's a huge amount of opportunity out there, but that opportunity, because of the market, has become harder to mine in a way.
Yeah.
There's more people competing. So it's good that you're getting educated, but just make sure you're going out and implementing stuff.
Yep.
Because the opportunity is incredible, but you've got to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I want to say thanks to Daniil for making time. We've been trying to get this thing up and ready to do this podcast for a while now. He's had a crazy busy schedule, just like a lot of us are in the business. But I want to say thanks to Daniil for taking time out of his busy day. He's about to go check out some of his projects right now. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review. Make sure you leave us a comment as well. If there's something that you want us to cover specifically for you on an upcoming episode, let me know. Like Daniil said, we're trying to present as many opportunities for you as possible. Don't get yourself overwhelmed. If you want to get into this business, or you are in this business, you're trying to scale, whatever it might be, give yourself maybe 1, 2, or 3 different strategies to really implement and go after. Don't overwhelm yourself. We've done tons of episodes up to this point. We've had really great people come on, and this is a great episode. Daniil really laid it out for what he's doing as far as new construction. So this is up to you. You have the tools, the opportunities, all at your fingertips. So take advantage. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you rate us. Leave us a 5-star review and leave us a comment. And if you need anything whatsoever, you can reach out to us at support@jasonluchese.com, or you can call us at 317-900-1307. Other than that, I will talk to you later, and I'll see you on our upcoming podcast episode next time, my friends. Take care. Bye now.
Thanks for listening. For show notes and links to anything discussed on today's program, visit noflippingexcuses.com. If you'd like to call the show, dial 317-900-1307, 24/7. Leave a message with your first name and where you're calling from, and include your question, comment, or concern. Who knows? You might end up on the air with Jason Lucchese. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. The links are posted at noflippingexcuses.com. Remember, you can close more deals now, make your own rules, and design and live an amazing life without having some jerk-off boss tell you what to do. Share noflippingexcuses.com with like-minded people you know who are ready for badassery, crushing it in real estate, and enjoying freedom to whatever you like, whenever you like it.